This is Focus with Jack Caudill.
Good evening, I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome to this month's edition of Focus. This month we're talking about homelessness here in Rapid City and around the Black Hills. Three guests with us to talk about that. Lysa Allison, she is the Executive Director of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission here in Rapid City. Melanie Timm is the Executive Director of the Hope Center in Rapid City. And Amy Richie is the Administrator for the Black Hills Regional Homeless Coalition. Thank you guys for coming up here. Little notes here before we get going. The 2022 Point in Time homeless count found a 30% increase in the number of homeless people in South Dakota compared to 2019. The 2023 count down a little bit from last year, down to 1,282, and that new figure includes 207 children under the age of 18. We're going to start with Lysa Allison. You know, talking about homelessness. How do we define who is homeless here in this area?
Well, that's kind of interesting because a lot of it depends upon the federal government's definition. When I first started working in this field 15 years ago, people who were couch surfing and living in hotels were considered homeless. Now they're not. Now you're considered homeless if you're living in a car, living in a shed, a place, an abandoned house, a place not for human habitation, or and that's pretty much what they consider homeless.
How do you, Melanie, as you look at this, what do you consider someone to be homeless?
I would consider someone to be homeless anyone who does not have stable, safe, secure housing.
And Amy Richie from Black Hills Regional Homeless Coalition, as you guys do this and you guys kind of administer that homeless count every year, what is the definition of someone who is homeless?
For the point in time count, it's exactly as Lysa said. If you're living in a place not meant for human habitation, so couch surfing and those things do not count as homeless at this point. If you consider, that's what we consider inadequately housed, and if we had a number for that, it would be significantly higher. But because the definition is so specific through housing and urban development, it's a little bit lower than what we see in the service provider field.
So who makes up the homeless population here in this area, from what you guys see in the numbers and the counts that you do and what you see on the streets?
Humans, people, children, adults, men, women, families, all of it. There's no age, gender, race, anything that you can say is the homeless population in Rapid City. It's just people.
Now, Melanie, down at the Hope Center, you're dealing with that segment of the population every day.
We are.
As you see, who is that group that's coming in there?
The group that we serve at the Hope Center is quite diverse. Our services aren't just limited to those that are without a home. And so I would say roughly 50% of the people that we serve are without a home. But as Amy said, it's a wide range of folks. Every background, education level, race, age, everyone is at jeopardy of being without a home at some point.
Now, the Hope Center is merely a day facility. Lysa, you guys are overnight.
Yep.
Sometimes for longer periods of time. Mm-hmm. Who is that group of people that you see coming through your doors?
Same human beings that are struggling, and a lot of times it's because they've gotten out of prison, they've gotten out of jail. Addiction and mental health are issues, so sometimes they have burned all of their bridges with family, friends, and relatives. We have, infants at the Women and Children's Home, all the people up to 80 at the Men's Mission, sometimes at the Women and Children's Home. They're all struggling. We're getting a lot of people now that are really struggling with rent. We didn't see that so much with COVID because there was so much rent money going out, but now people aren't able to afford rent. And we all know that rent prices around the country and in Rapid City have increased dramatically.
And obviously this is not a problem with an easy solution. As you look forward, what are the solutions?
I think one of the things that I would love to see, and I've been saying this for about a decade, is transitional housing or affordable housing. There's a lot of housing that's in Rapid City right now that is being built, but it's not specifically affordable housing. I know we're about 9,000 units short of affordable housing in Rapid City itself. I personally would love to see transitional housing where we can take people from the shelter to put them into, think of the old YMCA, kind of where they have their own room, shared bathrooms type thing, to really work with them to get them stable in their employment, have them save up some money, and then go out to have their own apartments. And we can just teach them some life skills and living skills in the process.
Melanie, as you look at it, what are some of the solutions moving forward? Obviously, there's no easy one, but
there isn't.
What is the best path forward, do you think?
I guess one thing that I would like to see in Rapid City is some additional emergency shelter. Cornerstones has done an amazing job for many, many years, but they can only do so much, and the numbers don't seem to be decreasing at all. We have a lot of working poor in South Dakota, and there's just not enough space to put folks who are in the midst of a crisis, in a struggle. And I think that we need most definitely affordable housing, transitional housing, but also some additional resources in the emergency type situations.
Amy, as you look at it, what are our solutions? What are our best paths, at least to make some progress here?
Well, I think immediately emergency shelter is definitely key. As they both mentioned, some mental health and addiction services. Some of our population that's struggling with those issues, our housing insecure population struggles with those issues, and when it takes some time to get into a treatment facility when you're ready to do that, and having a place for people to go in that week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it takes to get them the services that they're asking for, is key to having an immediate help. Emergency shelter and transitional housing. After a person goes and gets some mental health assistance or addiction treatment or whatever they want, when they come back here, there's nowhere for them to go after that. There's no wraparound social services. There's no support system for the lifestyle change that they have just chosen to make and sort of move forward in their life. Then there's no place for them to live once they get back here. So some transitional housing with some wraparound services is key to a quicker solution than, building 9,000, was it, affordable houses.
What are some things that people don't know about the homeless population here, or don't understand about the people that are in that situation?
I don't think there's anybody that's more than one life event away from being in that situation. So it's hard for the general population to understand that it's one major disease, one major car accident, one major event in a life that can land you in the same position where you're needing a service like the Hope Center or Cornerstone Rescue Mission, just in the short term, just to have that support and that social network of people that support each other when they're in crisis is really important, and we're losing that with the Hope Center. I think that's probably, in my opinion, one of the most important services the Hope Center provided was the ability for people that are struggling with housing insecurity to be able to get around and have a social group to support them. So that's where the wraparound services and transitional housing comes in, is helping with that social support that people need.
Now, Melanie, obviously she mentioned the Hope Center. You guys are down to your final days in the current format that you're in. How difficult is that for you, and difficult for the people that you serve down there?
It's very difficult, very difficult. A lot of emotion right now, some anger, a lot of tears, a lot of denial. We have a lot of guests that are just simply not willing to accept the fact that they're not going to be able to come after December 8th, that those services are not going to be available. It's been very difficult. I appreciate what you just said, Amy. Thank you very much. One thing I would like to add is that our aging population, that's a huge concern for me. They have some medical needs, and there's not enough medical services to provide for all those needs, some assisted living, nursing home care, those types of things. And in the last year, I've seen quite a few of our Hope Center guests that their medical needs have become very great, and not having available facilities for them to be able to receive the kind of care, the level of care that they need. It's not fair for them to be dropped off at the Hope Center or at Cornerstone's. None of our staff are able to take care of significant medical needs, and they're not always appropriate for Monument either. And so that's been one of the biggest concerns that I've seen regarding the population that are without a home, is those that have pretty intense medical needs that there's no place for them to go.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll continue our look at homelessness here in the Black Hills and Rapid City when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about homelessness here in the area. Melanie Timm is the executive director of the Hope Center. Before we went to the break, talked about you guys closing down here on December 8th. Where are the people going to go that come down there? This is where they spend their days, Monday through Friday. Where are they going to go after December 8th?
I don't have an answer. I wish I did. There are several organizations that I've heard of, or individuals that have desire to provide some of the services that we've provided for the last 12 years for the community, but I haven't heard of anything definite yet. As soon as those resources are made known, I will direct our guests to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, but none of them have included a day center. They've included things like a food pantry or hygiene supplies or mail services and vital records, but I have not heard of anyone creating a day center.
All right, Lysa Allison is the executive director of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. Lysa, people kind of stuck in this cycle of homelessness. What are the challenges of digging yourself out of that cycle? What makes that so difficult?
Well, I think there's several challenges. I think addiction and mental health play a big part of that. You know, unemployment plays a part of it, not having a stable place to live. So that's one of the things that we can offer people, is they can come and stay at the mission. We can help them get ID, birth certificates, things that you would need to be able to look for a job. We know that people coming in off the street can't go look for a job normally on day 1 or 2. So we give them some time to, we triage them, make sure that they're okay, help them get interview clothes, street clothes, work with them on mock interviews. And we just meet their needs, and everybody's got a different need. Everybody's case plan looks different. Everybody's got a different struggle, and we just work with them to find out what those individual needs are and help them build a plan forward.
Amy Richie is the administrator for the Black Hills Regional Homeless Coalition. As you look at it, what are the biggest challenges of getting somebody out of that homeless cycle?
I would have to agree with the housing issue. You know, they have to be ready to do the things that it takes to get into secure housing, and that housing needs to be available when they're ready, not 2 weeks or a month or 60 days down the line. Whatever assistance a person is looking for needs to be available, at least on a short-term basis, until longer-term solutions can be identified. I believe that we, with VOA, Black Hills Regional Homeless Coalition is under Volunteers of America, and that's kind of some of our homeless outreach programs. It's housing first. If we can get somebody into some stable housing, that changes a lot of things. It makes it easier for case management to find them, contact them, work with them, check in, make sure things are going well. Just kind of walk with them on that path of changing the way they do things on a daily basis.
What services are available here?
Here in Rapid City?
Right, here in Rapid City and around the area.
There's a myriad of services available. I think it's more important the ones that aren't available are really that first step part. There's lots of places people can get food and assistance for that. It takes a little bit of time, so that's why that emergency and transitional housing is so important to accessing those services. If you don't have a permanent place to sleep or a place to be or an address, to access any of the services in town is almost impossible. And if you have no transportation, then you're walking clear across town to fill out an application that you're not going to get an answer for 60 days or 30 days even. So transportation and housing for those to be able to access all of the great services we have. But as I said before, the things that we're missing are emergency, 30 days-ish, and then something when people come back to this area from either medical assistance or addiction assistance or whatever, somewhere for them to be in that short time frame. is really important to a long-term solution.
Is it a challenge sometimes to get people to accept help? Can that be a challenge?
Sometimes it is. With some of our co-response teams and things with the police department, that's one of the things that I hear a lot, is that the day when someone decides they're ready that day. They weren't ready yesterday, and they may not be ready tomorrow. They're ready right now today. So that's where Rapid City right now has a large gap in services, is that right now today, safe, warm environment for people to be in while they're making those decisions that they need to make for their mental health, addiction, physical health, whatever the case may be. Being able to find people that need assisted living, after a hospital stay. Mm-hmm. The home health nurse isn't going to come visit you when you're sleeping out in a place not meant for human habitation. They're just not going to. So physical health is also a huge concern for that population, everybody, but more so when they don't have a place to get the medical assistance that they need.
Melanie, is it a challenge? Is it tough? How do you get those people that are leery of accepting help to reach out and to let somebody help them?
That's the thing I think, me just personally, I'm going to miss the most at the Hope Center, building relationships with the people that we serve. It looks different for everyone. Not everyone wants to welcome someone else into their world, but when they do, or if they decide that they do, it's beautiful. We get to know them, they get to know us. We can sit down and have some really difficult conversations, hold their hand, so to speak, through the next steps. Mentoring has been a big deal at the Hope Center, and we've seen just tremendous success, but it doesn't always look like we would anticipate. It doesn't always mean a home. It means opening up and sharing. There's a lot of trauma that people have experienced, and it weighs heavy on them, and it definitely attributes to future success and stability.
Lysa, how do you guys go about getting people to agree to take help, which can sometimes be tough?
Sure, there are some people that really struggle with asking for help. And what probably the best introduction that people have to the mission is coming into our free soup kitchen. And that's where we can build a lot of relationships with people. And then as they get to know us, as we go through the line, we always invite them to stay anyway, but after a few times, especially when it's really cold, then people are more willing to do that. We have a wonderful case manager, Joe, who was homeless himself and has worked his way up through the system, and he can really engage with them on a different level. And again, it's building relationships, letting them know that we're here for them. When they don't get the job, when their wife asks for a divorce, when a family member dies, we live with them. We're there to walk that path with them, and they've got somebody 24/7, 365 that they can talk with at the mission. And it's, again, building relationships. They may leave and come back 2 weeks later. We'll just pick right up and love on them as much as we can and help them move forward in their way, in their time.
All right, we got to take another break. We'll continue our look at homelessness in the Black Hills and Rapid City when we continue with this month's edition of Focus. I'm Jack Caudill. Welcome back to this month's edition of Focus, talking about the homeless situation here in the area. Amy Richie is the administrator for the Black Hills Regional Homeless Coalition. What is the best way for somebody to help? Is it volunteering? Is it donating to organizations? Is it putting money in the giving meters? Is it giving $10 to the guy on the street that is asking for money? What's the best way that somebody can help?
We believe that the most effective way to help is to donate to the services that are already out there and use the giving meters. If, the average homeless person from many different service providers, you'll get a very similar story that's panhandling, will get a few $100s every day. Well, if we could garner 50% of that to get some transitional housing and give more support to places like the Hope Center and the Cornerstone Rescue Mission, that is the most effective way to assist with the housing insecurity that we're experiencing in Rapid City. Other than, donating to organizations where you know what they're doing is, and locally, I think local donations are super important that stay local. So places like we see sitting here that are working in Rapid City rather than donating to nationwide organizations is helpful. Finances, everything comes down to money, right? No matter what happens. So being able to give the public an opportunity to choose an organization in their city that they can donate to is one of the reasons the giving meters were put out there. You can choose to donate to specific organizations, or it can go into a pot where the organizations will have a competitive grant as soon as there's enough funds in there to do that. So,
Melanie Timm is the executive director of the Hope Center here in Rapid City. As you look at it, what's the best way for somebody to help out if they want to get involved?
I agree with Amy. Also, volunteering your time and energy is a big deal. At the Hope Center, our budget is very small. More than half of our budget is dependent upon private donations from individuals in the community. In addition to that, though, we're a very small staff and we serve a lot of people. It's a very busy place. And so having volunteers who would even just give 2 hours a week of their time consistently is a huge help.
Lysa Allison, Executive Director of the Cornerstone Rescue Mission. As you look at it, what's the best way to help?
I would agree with Amy and Melanie, and I think volunteering is key. And it doesn't have to be an 8-hour shift. It can be 2 hours here or there. We always like to challenge different offices and families to come and serve lunch. It's a nice introduction to the mission and to homeless services and homeless people. So that's always wonderful, and it's 45-minute time frame. Of course, giving, we're always struggling financially. I think most nonprofits are, so that's another one. Giving meters are a wonderful idea, and in addition to the city, I would suggest that people not give to the panhandlers, but to give to the agencies and the giving meters, as Amy laid out very nicely. So it's important that people get involved in the community, and I think there's a stigma about homeless shelters and homeless people, and I think coming and spending some time and seeing that they're just beautiful, wonderful people who've been through a lot of trauma, and they just don't want to be ignored. They want to be seen and loved. They have the same needs all of us do.
You know, one thing that strikes me talking to all three of you, a lot of people look at, there's the homeless guy down on the corner, but you're looking at them, these are people.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get that view out?
Well, I think actually spending some time with homeless people, because there is such a stigma. They're so different. What am I going to say to this person? I work in a bank or, an office. What am I going to say to them? Just talk to them like you would anybody else. They're regular people, and they're funny. They're resilient. They really have a community of looking out for each other. They look out for my staff. I mean, they're really fun people, and we end up hiring a lot of them at the mission, because they really want to volunteer and give back, and it's just really fun to watch the growth.
Melanie, how do you get people past thinking of that stigma of the homeless and think of them just as people?
None of us like to be judged or assumptions made about us. I think if we just live life trying to be kind, trying not to judge, I think we'll all be fine, we'll all be better. Just like we don't like to be judged, neither do they. I've had some circumstances where I've been on the sidewalk talking to one of our Hope Center guests, and managers from various businesses will come out and say, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And that just strikes me as odd. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm talking to my friend Bob. Like, why are you bothering us? So I think a lot of people just make very unfair, unjust assumptions.
All right, we are just about out of time. As you look at it, got about 15 seconds. As you look at, how should people look at the homeless group?
Just like you would anybody that you know that's struggling in any way. If anyone you know is struggling with physical ailments, mental health issues, addiction issues, they're somebody's mother, father, son, child.
All right, we are out of time. Lysa Allison, Melanie Timm, Amy Richie, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us again, and hope to see you again the first Sunday night of next month.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.